I'm Janae Wilkinson, and today I will be speaking about minimalism art. Which one would you consider art? Yes, both are paintings, but one just looks like a bunch of rectangles. We could all do that, right? Of course we could, but Ad Reinhardt was the one who actually painted it and decided to call it art. Art's kind of funny like that. Sometimes it starts with a difference of opinion and flourishes into something more, just like minimalism art has. I myself am an artist, albeit I've never been fully committed to it, if you can't tell by that unfinished picture in the middle there. Yet I've taken several art classes, including ones for my personal knowledge. In doing so, I took the initiative to research minimalism when I first came across it in one of my art history classes, because I also didn't understand its importance or just its purpose. Minimalism art has taken a wider stage in the world other than art museums or art history classes. There's a chance that any of us have walked into a doctor's office or just a general business building and noted how neatly decorated and clean it is. There's usually light colors and just this overall calming feeling. This is all thanks to minimalists and their art. Minimalism art is considered real art because society's opinions are always evolving. Along with this, the art qualities change depending on the current events of that time or those opinions of that time, and ultimately minimalism has made its mark in our everyday lives with its popularity. To understand how minimalism has gradually become an official art style, though, we should probably look at how it first began. Art is an opinion-based industry based on your opinion. That could be your opinion, somebody else's opinion, an art critic's opinion, and this means that we don't necessarily have to like it to consider it art. That being said, as Tate Art Gallery's website explains, minimalism art began developing in the 1950s, became more popular by the 60s and the 70s. It also turned away from this expressive style of art. It rejected the popular opinions on art from that time, where you had to have a deeper meaning or some sort of metaphorical meaning, where you couldn't just look at an image and just look at it. You had to see some type of symbol in it. In Genevieve Slomsky's article, she also describes minimalism as being a simplified art form compared to the previous complex artistic ideas. She also defines minimalism as having minimal detail, clean lines, repeated patterns, and geometric qualities applied to create these art pieces, which can also kind of be represented by Frank Stella's Harn 2, made in 1967. As you can see, it's got almost all of those qualities with the repeated patterns, the different geometric shapes that are kind of forming together to make the squares and the circles at the same time. And also just like that minimal detail. This all became a response to the chaotic times with the civil rights movement, the many different wars, World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, and also industrialism taking over the world. The National Gallery of Art names artists like Robert Morris, Frank Stella, Donald Judd, and many more minimalists as paving the way for this art form. The pioneers of minimalism discovered a different angle of art by creating an entire space instead of just one picture. That's according to Timothy Ng's article from 2025. And when I say creating a space, I'll go more into detail about that because it doesn't really make sense when I first just say it. These minimalists and their goals in art eventually began to reflect the public's desire for simpler times and less chaos, though. Instead of finding a deeper meaning in an image, the pure presentation and simplicity and minimalism became appreciated for its clean and orderly form of art. With that, the minimalistic qualities that were applied to this art to make it so minimal, as I've briefly described, this simplistic geometric shapes, basic industrial materials, and the application of math to create art was what minimalism was all about. As Tate Art Gallery's website states, minimalist art offers a highly purified form of beauty to convey a relaxing reality of art. These qualities were aimed with the purpose of creating a calming, clean reality. It didn't have a deeper meaning other than that. In this process, minimalism was very different from previous art forms where it was just you had to think so deeply in order to see the creativity in what somebody else was creating. And now that creativity was just right in front of your eyes. Donald Judd's, actually, in the top left image that I show, the orange boxes, it's created by Donald Judd, and it's untitled, like many other minimalism paintings, because they were kind of being minimal with titling their work. It's just simply 10 boxes, but they're all mathematically thought of. They're the same size, evenly spaced apart, and the industrial aspect of it comes from the materials used to make the art. It's made from plexiglass and metal, which are industrial materials, and this was essentially to mimic that factorization. And as I'll continue on the next slide, because my camera's covering Frank Stella's Ina Falk right here, it also wanted to mimic just products being made in factories. But this is Frank Stella's Ina Falk, and it looks very simple. It's just a black background and white lines. I mean, anybody could do it, sure, but Frank Stella was the one who did it, and I'm sure that that art piece is worth a lot. And again, it reflected this production of materials. It was factorization with the lack of application and engagement to make the art. It was mimicking the machines that were making products and are still making the products to this day. On the right is Solowitz's horizontal progression number 4. And I mean, it's just as it says, it's a horizontal progression of cubes that are all made of aluminum, but it's painted in white. And you know, you have to apply these geometric qualities to make this straight up horizontal progression. Originally, minimalists aimed to immerse an audience into an entire space of minimalistic qualities that would create an entire art piece, but this has again come into our everyday life. Again, creating space in the world. It's not just about creating it in a room anymore. And this image that's shown above me, the three-dimensional qualities applied to minimalism allowed the audience to interact with the art piece through perceiving it differently based on where they were standing. Now, you get to perceive somebody's home depending on where you're standing, and no matter what, it's just got this calming, relaxing feeling to it. The idea of creating space for an audience has become a general aesthetic in not only homes, but fashion, business, different websites use minimal detail just to kind of get their point across simplistically instead of making it overwhelming. And with that, relaxing and simple public spaces, even homes, websites, and it's just more appreciated than it used to be. What I mean by that is when we look at this bottom picture right here, this is more of a periodical, traditional home that you would have seen decades or centuries ago maybe. And you don't really see many rooms like that anymore because it's too overwhelming for a lot of people. And this is, again, it's opinion based. Maximalist styles can be more stress inducing or chaotic depending on the person. That doesn't mean it has to be you. Some people still like stuff like that. And this may be attributed to maximalism being so overwhelming that minimalism has taken such a wide trend in architecture and fashion. Which, with that being said, minimalists have created an entire space for an audience, and this has just been taken to a new level. You can see it in homes, just like this one right here, with the geometric qualities, with the different rectangular and squares. And then in fashion, modern fashion with the minimalistic values, with less design and less jewelry, just less patterns on their clothes. And in this home office, for instance, it's calm, simplistic, and repetitive. It's symmetric, and you can see it everywhere now. In conclusion, minimalism has come a long way from being considered meaningless to becoming a professional art form and just an overall trend for aesthetic. Through minimalist rejection of what was considered art, what some would consider boring or bland, is now a lifestyle for some. You can see it in people's homes and businesses, as I've said. Society's constant change in opinions, as well as art qualities evolving and reflecting these opinions, has formed minimalism into an art style and made it a part of everyday life. As one of my art teachers, Mrs. Guerrero, put it, you may have thought of the idea and thought it was not entertaining enough for art, but somebody else thought of it, created it, and went far with it. Just like Frank Stella with his star here, and Carl Andre with his copper tiles here, have probably made a lot of money and made a great life for themselves. These are all of my sources, and I thank you for listening to my presentation on minimalism art today.